How's it going, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to college football time with Avery Miguel. Avery, how are you?
I'm good, Miguel. It was a wild weekend of college football. I had to get my cowboy hat on because it was like the OK Corral for some of these games over the weekend.
Georgia, Florida. I mean, when the game started, Florida looked like they had some urgency. They got on the board first, but at the end of the first quarter, all the way to the end of the game, it was all Georgia. Um, Dejon Edwards, he had two touchdowns in this game. Georgetown did it both offensively and defensively. We're talking about blocking the punt. We're talking about running the ball, throwing the ball. And they were doing this without Brock Bowers there. So Georgia absolutely dismantled Florida 43-20. I believe that was the final score. And it was not even a close. This was all Georgia. Florida didn't even score after that first quarter. They didn't even score until the fourth quarter. It was a complete domination. It was just all Georgia. They remain undefeated, and now they're 8-0.
You're right, Miguel. I thought this would be a bit of a close game. And you're right, Brock Bowers not being there could have given Georgia some issues, but Carson Beck, I mentioned, he was playing in his hometown of Jacksonville, Florida, and I do love to rep my Florida players. So Carson Beck did a very good job. He was finding different weapons, and the the Georgia Bulldogs played as a team. They didn't have to rely on one certain person. But Deshaun Edwards, he cooked, and I think that was the best thing, considering Florida was looking for other weapons that Georgia might fill in with Brock Bowers being out on injury. But you're right, even the Georgia Bulldogs, Jacksonville, not that far, maybe about a 6 hour drive. So Georgia fans coming to the game and the Georgia Bulldog fans, celebrating with their team. That was the main highlight of it. And it's one of those games where even though it's neutral territory, you can still feel that one team, their fans might have an edge over the other. But Georgia came to play. They used all their weapons on offense. They used all their weapons on defense. And I thought it was going to be a closer game, but you're right, they dismantled Florida. But here's the thing, even though Georgia won, the weekend as a whole just got more exciting, because for the next 4 weeks, if you look at those top 10 rankings, it's about to get very interesting.
Yes, indeed, it's gonna get very interesting. But before I ask this follow-up question, I just want to give a shout out to Jacksonville, the entire Florida. I mean, I'm my Miami Hurricane fan, so it's all about the U. It is all about the U. And they won this weekend. They still should have had one loss. If it wasn't for that, you know what game I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
so far, I'm happy for Miami Hurricanes. Jacksonville, shout out to Jacksonville because I have family over there. I've been there a few times. So the fact that this game was playing there, it just brought back memories when I was there a few years ago. But now that we're getting closer now to the best time in college football. Which team or teams, one or two teams, do you feel like that could give Georgia a run for their money?
It's interesting because I made notes. This is how serious I am. After Kansas beat Oklahoma, the floodgates just open. The floodgates open. Oklahoma, after beating Texas, they were in control. They were absolutely in control. But if you look at the top five teams, they're all undefeated. They're all 8-0. If there's one team I think that is probably going to have the most trouble, it's going to be Michigan. Michigan, in the next 4 weeks, they play Purdue, they play Penn State, ranked. They play Maryland. Maryland they're inconsistent, but they've been playing some really good football over the past couple weeks. And they round out their season with Ohio State, who is also ranked. And if there's another team in that top 5 that also has some trouble, it's Washington. Washington plays USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State to finish out their season. 3 of those 4 teams are ranked. No team in the top 5 that is undefeated right now can make any mistakes. Look at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's mistake was they weren't taking Kansas seriously. And another show of that, the certain team that defeated the University of Miami, they beat North Carolina. Like, they beat North Carolina badly. So even Georgia, the last game of their season, they play Georgia Tech. And Georgia has consistently run over Georgia Tech. I do not think they need to look over Georgia Tech, because even Georgia's 3 games before Georgia Tech is Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, and all those teams are ranked. Even the top 5 teams right now, they can't make any mistakes. Even Florida State, they're going to play Miami in 2 weeks, and Miami wants blood. And then they're going to finish their season with Florida. And you better believe the Florida Gators, if FSU makes it to the Swamp to play Florida wants to end their perfect season. Every team now that is looking at these teams, they want to be the one to knock off the undefeated team. And then right behind, rounding out the top 10, Oregon at 6, Texas at 7, Alabama at 8, Penn State at 9, and they can make a big jump, but they need a bit of help. And even Oklahoma rounding out in number 10. These next 3 or 4 weeks are going to be very, very exciting. And none of these teams that are in the top 5 right now need to have any issues. They need to play some really smart football. Players need to take care of themselves. You don't want any key injuries. But if there's one team that's gonna have a problem, it's gonna be Michigan. It's gonna be Michigan. They have to play perfect football from here on out. They can't even have a close win. Their wins need to be at least by two scores, at least. But these last 4 weeks, going into Thanksgiving, this is going to be some really, really fun football to watch. And that's why I love college football. Every week is exciting. Every week is interesting. And the fact that you have these shakeups, the fact that you have these really great games, even though you may have one team that is really good and one team that's just hanging in there, it's going to be really great. This is why you watch college football. This is why you watch college football.